And I must say the names. I must say their names because their lives are not in vain. David Chege, Erickson Mutisia, and Chieni. Was it David Chieni?
Eric.
Eric Chieni.
Yes.
And Eric Chieni.
I say, watch that documentary, get angry. Get angry about the status of this nation. Get angry about your passiveness about this nation. And then don't stop at that. Now do something about it. Do something about it in the station where you're at. If you're in a position of influence, use your position to speak about it and speak loudly and unashamed about it. Speak against the evils that people are facing in this country. Speak against the people who are purporting to be leaders of integrity, but yet they are followed left and right. Wanakimbizana na EACC huko because they have issues of corruption. Speak against injustices that you come across.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Vineyard podcast, your weekly dose of laughter, fun, banter, and a whole lot of realness. Nice to see you, my dear friends.
Nice to see you too.
Kama kawaida on the set of the Vineyard podcast. How are you, Madam Wakili?
A lot is going on.
Yeah.
I am feeling heavy.
Oh, you could say that again.
I'm misconstrued what you're saying.
Not heavy enough.
I'm not apologizing. Interpret however you will.
Around here,
Interpret however you will.
heavily pregnant.
We have no time to explain things. We are moving. Yeah, right now we are fixing the nation.
Please.
We don't have time to
We
explain.
have an agenda. Oh, but how's your personal life, Uko sawa?
I am well. I thank God.
Yeah.
Pupillage has come. We bless the Lord for that blessing.
Praise
We
Jesus.
bless the Lord for that blessing. It has
Hallelujah.
been a long wait.
Oh, yes.
It has been a serious long wait, but I bless the Lord.
We thank
Yes,
God.
I
We
bless
thank God and we
Him
celebrate.
for His mercies and His goodness every day.
We celebrate with you.
Thank
We
you.
Thank God.
Thank you.
Yes, Mr. Kingori,
I'm not heavy.
you are not heavy. You're not feeling heavy. Are you unaware of what is going on in our country?
It's I think I clicked one too many times until yeah, but otherwise I'm doing fantastic.
Yeah.
Aside from my country, no Kogeria.
No kugeria mani. Nice to hear that. I'm also doing great.
I have a little friend here who is
Getting a bit passionate. We're on set with animals. We love animals around here. Okay, come. Anyway,
I am
yes.
not dressed to
Yeah.
cuddle animals today.
Yes. And so I'm good. I have been good, been well, just continuing to work, thanking God for the blessing of work that can put something in your pocket and just feeling very fulfilled in the season of life that I'm in. Also in a season of transitions, we all are.
Yeah.
In many ways, we are alluding to something, but you will catch up,
You
guys.
will catch up. You will catch up.
Yeah, we're in a season of transitions, and we're just it's just grateful to God for the ebbs and flows of life. And without further ado, today we have a topic that is very dear and close to our hearts and should be to the hearts of every Kenyan if you are a citizen of this nation. Like Hope said when she was saying it, if there's something we are feeling, is heavy. Because there's a documentary that was released not so long ago. And it has taken us right back to 25th June,
Yep.
2024. And there's just so much to say, but we're going to try and unpack all of that in this episode because we have a role as citizens of this country and also as citizens of heaven, as Christians, as people who call ourselves after the name of Jesus Christ, to stand for justice. Scripture everywhere is littered with how God is a God of justice. We know that. And so we will never, not on the Vineyard podcast, be silent about matters that are affecting and are plaguing us as Kenyans. And so today
When you said that, it just reminds me
Yeah.
of what Mordecai tells Esther. Who knows? Maybe God placed you there for such a time as this.
a time
That
as
you think
Yeah,
you are-
don't think that if you're silent,
immune. Yeah.
you will be saved.
Exactly.
Come on.
Exactly. Thank you for that. And so by now, I'm sure you've all watched the documentary. If you've not, we can allow you to pause, go watch,
Yes.
come back, because it's a matter of civic duty to
Yes,
be aware.
yes,
Be aware. Be knowledgeable. Right now, we don't live in an age where you can excuse ignorance.
Yeah.
Everything
It's
is
no longer
at
bliss.
exactly. Everything is at our fingertips. And I wanted us to just look at this episode in 3 ways. And I want to ask my lovely co-hosts here, and we really thank God we have a lawyer who is very knowledgeable and passionate and articulate on matters such as this. But we'll just share our opinion, layman's, lawyers, and just see how we feel, because we are all Kenyans. And I want us to just begin, because all this had a genesis. Where did the rain start to beat? Because if there's something we know, is all of us as Gen Zs and even the younger working class, we've all been pretty much ignorant about what is going on in politics. If we think about the last election, nobody was very passionate about anything. The civic education was not much. It's always our parents and the older generation who cared a lot. But now there's been a shift. And I remember some words said by a man who God has appointed. Let me just call him that. I cannot preside over a bankrupt country.
We must learn to live within our means.
You must learn to live within your
Proceeds
means.
to have 1,600 and something acres. But
And the bankruptcy is now the fault of the normal working class Kenyans. Unajua unaweza piga mtu ngumi. But let me come back. So hope, Timo, any of you can begin. Where do you feel the rain began to beat? And slowly by slowly the awakening of what is happening now has reached where we are at today.
Timo, do you want to start? Because I feel like my genesis is way earlier.
Okay,
I think where the rain started beating us was when we thought politics was an old people game. We were like, "Hii shida ni ya watu wazee, it's not for
our
us."
problem.
And we were very passive about who's in leadership, what does it take to be in leadership, what does it entail, what are the policies running, what is the work of parliament, how is parliament running, and all those things. So when and I don't know how it happened with the finance bill. You know, it started like a joke. Have you guys read the finance bill? And we were like, what's that? Every year, the government comes up with a new budget and policies of how they'll want to run government, how they're going to raise revenue. So as we started perusing, as heavy as it was, you would note a few things and you'd like, okay, now I have a little money in my pocket. I'm paying this, I'm paying this, I'm paying
that,
this.
I'm paying this.
And I think when we started opening our eyes was when you're paying for things that don't work for you. So you're wondering, okay, I'm paying for hospitals whereby I stay in line. Then when I reach there,
Hakuna dawa.
there is no medicine.
Oh,
so I'm wondering, okay.
Full well.
You know,
Yeah.
I'm paying for a road and for a levy, but my goodness, nikikula inachanganishwa yote kwa tumbo. You know?
Motukanio.
You know, I'm paying for a house I'll never get to settle in.
Yeah.
You know,
You're paying towards a broken system.
I'm paying to pay the salaries of people who have nothing to do with me in their minds. So I'm wondering, okay, in as much as give to Caesar what belongs to Caesar, hey, this Caesar is not Caesar.
No, what we're giving him is not even, he wants to take even what doesn't belong to him.
And there was something that was running, let's reverse the roles with Kare. I take what you take from me, what remains with me, you take. We switch roles. And I think that's when our eyes began to be opened, when it was now our turn to become adults. And you realize your salary of 50,000 is nothing.
50,000. 50. What is that?
Unajiuliza, nilikuwa nihame na 50,000. Unaangalia, unajiuliza actually, guys. Yani with 50,000 you can do absolutely nothing. You and the government, ni kama government, it takes almost half, and you're like, now it's as if you're working for the government. Hey, I think that's where it all started debating us. When we were paying for our silence and our passivity. Then we said,
our passivity became too painful, too uncomfortable.
We can no longer be bystanders. Now we need to actually say something.
I like that. I like that. Hope.
My genesis is a little earlier. Mine stems right from the time when we had young people like Kina Tomboya who had envisioned a very different Kenya. But then there were other people who had gotten into parliament right immediately after independence. There were people who, there was so much hope in the air that, you know, we've got our own government, we can be able to run our systems. Nakumbuka nikiambiwa stories na kuka yangu kwamba mzungu aliambiwa step, it's time for us to run our government. And we had very passionate young people who got into government. Some of them who are very serious in activism. And then that's where the problem began. Because we had people who got into government and they realized they would continue to perpetuate what the colonialists had done. So instead, we exchanged a white colonialist for a black colonialist. And sadly, we are now feeling the brunt of what has been cumulatively happening over years. And now that's when we've said enough is enough. Because if you can check our history right from Kitambo, there's always been pain. People have always been suffering. It's just that here comes a generation that just cannot shut up to save their lives. Here comes a generation that decides, by the way, I will not be pinched and take it silently. You pinch me, I will shout you are pinching me. And I will make sure everybody knows you are pinching me and that I'm not comfortable being pinched. So essentially what we have in government right now is the fact that we still have the colonialist mindset that's still lords over us, but in black suits and in black faces. So essentially, the colonialists physically left our land, but our minds remained very colonized. So you find that we have people whose sole aim is to accumulate and amass and amass and amass and amass.
A
For
greed
them,
that is insatiable.
exactly. You're constantly ever saying, the ones who came before us, they took. So even it's my turn
to
to come and take. And then you're wondering, what is even left to take anymore? Now that's why, because it's very difficult to take from that other side, you've decided that there's new playing ground, which is the people's pockets. And that's why it's very insatiable, and they're taking and they're taking and they're taking. Now this is the point where we have said enough is enough. It began to beat us a long time ago. We've only started speaking about it. Yeah.
And the saddest part is the generations before us. They're not like they knew what was going on.
Yeah.
They experienced the same thing, but they were too, I don't know if it's timid. There's just a way that the older generations have been. It's what you're saying. Their minds are so colonized. You know, there's that phrase that says, emancipate yourself from mental slavery. You are bound. You look free. You look like a free man, but you are so
Chained
bound. They are
inside your
chained.
head.
Even the thought of speaking about like even envisioning a better tomorrow is so distant. And I am so glad that narrative is being broken and it's being changed by a generation, and the Gen Zs, millennials as well, the working class, maybe from 40s, going younger. I think there's honestly hope, because we are tired.
Yes, we are.
And it cannot be, is it high school where we're told it cannot be business as usual?
Yes.
It cannot be business as usual anymore. I want us to take a look now, a deep dive into the documentary that we watched, that all of us have watched at our own independent times. And I must say their names. Because their lives are not in vain. David Chege, Erickson Mutisia, and Chieni. Was it David Chieni?
Eric
Chieni.
Yes.
And Eric Chieni. Those three normal protesters just like us, because the three of us, you remember,
yes,
were on those streets.
we were there that day.
Student,
Yes,
a butcher,
a software engineer.
and a software engineer.
A student, a butcher, and a software engineer. All of them. Look, just look at those three professions.
My heart grieves for what they had in store for this country, but we've lost it. We will never experience them. We will never get to see what they had to offer for this nation, because they were robbed off of their lives by people who care not one single bit about this nation.
Not 1 second. I'm just hearing in my voice that in my head that voice of that policeman. Oh, my blood is curdling.
Even after the fatal shots, he could still be heard urging his colleagues forward to kill.
As if ni mbuzi ama sijui ni nini. They shot open fire to a group of
live
unarmed
bullets.
Yani people, those men were probably just walking. You see, they were walking in the crowd.
Yes.
Unapata tu haya, pu, chini. Your life is gone. Just like that. Nobody was. there was no affront because at the point in that documentary, remember, at the point of the shooting, there was no affront. He
There
shot
wasn't.
open fire.
Yeah.
There was a distance of almost 50 meters
Yeah.
between where the shooter was.
Because it was when people were just leaving
Exactly.
parliament.
And they were
And see, they were
People were
actually
not even-
leaving.
yeah.
They weren't even coming in
they
at
were
that
not
point.
even running towards them.
They were going
That
away.
crowd was. You remember that?
Actually, I think
Yeah.
they were done with the agenda. The
Yeah.
agenda was let's
Those
enter
guys were
parliament.
leaving.
And
It's
then
like-
we exit.
Yeah.
Just that.
People who are just walking away and you just kneel.
People with firimbis.
Yeah. And then the worst of it all is when our leaders
Convene in parliament.
yeah, and say, Ati,
People die every day.
And otherwise, CG legitimate right to protest whatever was infiltrated by organized criminals. The
Which
organized
ones?
criminals.
Which
The armed
ones?
And
The
I like,
software engineers
and I
and
liked how the documentary showed, okay, the people who were killed were never goons. So who are these goons that
Yeah.
infiltrated
Yeah.
the protest?
Yeah.
You were in the protest. Me, I can tell you one
Yeah.
thing. We were singing, we were dancing, we had phones, we had
Yeah.
whistles, we had bandanas.
Exactly. We were, and then
There
there were
were-
speakers.
There
it
were
was a
cameras that
bash.
were so expensive.
Yeah.
And we are not goons.
Yes.
And the worst part is the shooters, as highlighted in the documentary,
Mhm.
are people in uniform.
In uniform. People who are supposed to, you look at them and you get a sense of security
Safety.
because they have sworn an oath to protect this nation.
Yeah.
But they're the very ones that turn
Yeah.
against you.
When did we realize we are being led by ruthless people? And that the people, the person who is doing the final job, the shooter,
Mhm.
it comes from
It's an
a
order.
Yeah, it's an order. It's from a system that is broken.
Yes.
There are people behind it. There's a chain
Mhm.
up to the place where you've gotten to the place where you can open fire at civilians.
Yes.
The problem starts way
And you
before.
know,
Way-
nothing
way
will happen.
before.
There'll be no
Exactly.
accountability.
And clearly,
There's-
to date,
Nobody has been brought to book.
nobody. Yeah.
Mothers
Nobody
have
hata
buried their
kujifanya.
children.
Unajua hata mnaweza jifanya kidogo ati we are doing some, we haven't seen any action
Yeah.
towards somebody being brought to book. The documentary for me highlighted so much conceitedness and evil that is in our parliament that is glaring.
Yeah.
In our government that is so glaring. It's how we have elected people who their sole purpose is for themselves. You saw that the day after the documentary had gained all of this buzz and whatever, there are people with the effrontery to come and speak and say how it is. Why is it that the white man is coming to speak about our issues instead of bothering about their own?
After the
But we have got our own inside this country who never went a step forward to do that.
You know, in the book of Job.
So
Job
if
tells
somebody
all his
shines
friends,
your pain, if somebody comes and shines your evil on you, oh, it's not a valid evil because it's not your people who have shined it, it's somebody else who has done it. Somebody has the effrontery to come and say, people die every day. Yet it is the
Okay.
People's Assembly. These are people
You're the
who have been
representative of a
elected
nation.
to represent you and me and themselves. It really irked me so much that we have systems in the country that are supposed to protect us, but they're the ones that at the word of whoever will turn. Our constitution is supposed to be the soul and the spirit of this nation. But how is it that the word of one person supersedes
the law.
the constitution that we so painstakingly went to? The drafters of our constitution are probably crying wherever they are at some point. Because
The amount of
what is the right to
finances
life?
It took the resources.
What is the right to life if at the command of one person,
One
a
plainclothes
civilian,
You can
officer.
institute
yes,
a shoot to kill order over Protestants, and I like there's our pastor once said, between an unarmed young man and a person who has full body armor, who's stronger?
Yeah. Who is the danger there?
who is the
Yes.
danger?
If you sit and analyze that documentary, it's different. You can explain when somebody was attacking. I still don't even think that's valid because, again, you're unarmed and you're in armor. That person was alikuwa huko 50 meters.
And
you
you
just
know,
opened fire.
The law talks about using reasonable force. And for you to use reasonable force, it also means that if your opponent has come to a gunfight with a knife,
Rubber bullets.
you don't use a gun. Now this was even more preposterous because it was, you have come with a gun to
To
people who have water
missiles.
bottles and white handkerchiefs.
and speakers and the Kenyan flag.
What does that even speak of you as a person? Let's not even talk about a station that you hold or whatever. As a person, what does that even... Is that a fair fight? How intimidated must you be?
It begs the question, how are they even trained that you know, by the time that officer pulls that trigger...
And let me tell you, this wasn't even anything to come across genocide or war crimes or whatever that would warrant that you would call, you know, such
This
heavy
was a
machinery to
protest.
come and whatever. This was just a peaceful protest. People coming. And mark you, I dare say they even have every right, because what is the House of Parliament if not the house where they are represented?
Yeah.
They are the power. It really brought to light a lot of the weaknesses our leaders have, a lot of the weaknesses our
Exposed
systems
them
have.
completely.
It broke and shattered the trust that we have in our security mechanisms, because for the longest while you'd be told as a child, kimbilia kwa jeshi. They never turn on civilians. What we saw that day,
Even the Bible says, what does a soldier have to do with civilian affairs?
let me tell you, it broke my heart. I was in so much rage when I watched that documentary. It was palpable. You could see me brewing. And I was watching it in public transport. I bet the lady who was sat next to me was just wondering, what is... Yeah, this one is mad. And she was waiting to get off at her station because she was wondering what is wrong with me. I was boiling. I was angry. And every single person that watches this and you don't feel some type of way about the situation in this country...
You are the problem, please.
Yes. If you don't think that this should be a cause for you to feel something and do something, there must be a big problem.
I want to ask just two last questions as we try to start wrapping up. I said try. The emotions you've spoken about, I'm sure those are the emotions many of us are going through. I watched that documentary on the way here and I almost instantly regretted it because there's something it does to you. You just feel life leaving your body when you see somebody just by the virtue of human life, not even the fact that it could have been you. Fine, yes, it could have been you, of course, but that's just a life lost. What do we do, my dear friends, with this extremely exasperating, gut-wrenching, heartbreaking emotions? Because, you know, it's very easy for you to just wallow and just be and feel helpless. Because for a minute there I was just like, you know, you look at the system and you look at those in charge of the system and you hope for 2027 and you start casting doubt in your mind and like, you know, it's right now if you listen to people, they're like, hata unaona vile wanajipanga wataiba tu, you know, there's that narrative also, like fine, we know we will come out, we all know the way we are going to vote, but of course there's that lingering fear, like what if they still steal the election? But I just want us to say, what first of all do we do with our emotions? Let me combine them. What do we do with our emotions? How do we manage to channel that into something actionable and something that will actually be for the good, something that you can do, just not feel bad for nothing? And what is our role, not only as Christians, as Kwanza we have double, as Christians and also as citizens of this country, because you have to go beyond the step of being aware of what is going on. So what is our role and what can we do, and what are the immediate next steps, even as we wait for the chance to be able to go to that ballot, to wake up bright and early and perform our civic duties? I think Timo can go first and then Hope.
I think, one, allow yourself to go through the emotions and everything that it entails. Because at times, we numb ourselves so that we can be able to sideline. So allow yourself to actually go through the emotions and be like, this happened just because someone was insecure about sorry, but it happened. Two, Let it be. You see the way we said to 7, never again
Never
will I
again.
raise a panga because you're Luo and I'm Kikuyu.
Yeah.
It doesn't make abstract sense.
Yes.
It needs to be a resolution in our heads. Never again should someone die fighting for their country. It shouldn't be. And at times we
Wrong.
normalize it. And at times we were criminalized because we went protesting. But we were like, so what else would you have done? We've tried every single alternative. We've raised awareness through social media. You didn't listen to us. We've tried to call our MCs. Did they even?
We've written emails. How many times have you written an email in those?
Nothing. So to keep on pushing. Keep on pushing. I think that's the hardest part to do, especially when the more you push, it's as if the more hard-headedness you face. Because the more you push, the more people start saying, but people die every day. You wonder, oh, my goodness, that's how you choose to respond. You know, I'm trying to imagine if someone's mother was watching that. Then you're the first person telling her, everyone dies every day. Now what's that?
Yeah.
What are you saying?
People die all
People
the
die
time.
all the time and move on. Nakasirika. But I think the thing that we need to do is, one, raise awareness. Raise awareness. Tell people, teach people, this is your role to play as a citizen. This is what the Constitution says. These are your rights. This is how you can effect change where you're at, you know. And also stand up when you see injustice happen. Because if you're able to curb it at the small stages, we'll start feeling the grander stages more severe. Because we stomach a lot of little things, especially our parents, and I feel that's why at times they're numb, because they've stomached so many little things. When the grand one comes, they're like, But you see us, even from the little things, we're like, apana, but mbona ushikwe with no reason? Mbona police asikwambia mbona amekushika? Let him tell you why you're being arrested. And let him say where you're being taken. Because that's how people walikuwa wanakuwa abducted. Mtu anachukuliwa mnauliza, why is he being abducted? Nothing. Where is he being taken? Nothing. You know, so if we can be able to account for the small injustices, when the big ones happen, we'll have more footing and more ground to say, if we can't stomach this, what makes you think we can stomach that one, in all honesty? And as Christians, I think one thing we need to do is, we need to speak about it. Because I think at times we put politics and faith parallel to each other.
We are afraid to mix the two because we want to sound politically correct and say, pray in your secret closet,
you know,
and refuse to talk about
a friend of mine posted and said, even the police said, I give you over to your father the devil. At times we just
just say what's in your heart. But then sema ikutoke.
Alisema, I've given so and so to Satan. Come on. That's what it means to be a Christian. And in politics, at times you need to stand up and say, you know what? We have tried everything. Now I give you over. I've done my part. And it's a bad thing to be left in God's hands. It's a very bad thing. Atumetuchosha tunasema, either Mungu ama shetani, chaguo, tatujui ni nani, watadeal na wewe. So I think as Christians, we are slacking because we don't speak. And funny enough, the injustices happen from people who were backed by the church. So there needs to be accountability of
step finya
us, because we stood by you. Can we hold you accountable to the values you sold us for?
In fact, 95% of the people who voted him in was through the faith card. It was the faith card.
How quickly people forget that the very faith that he stood with. Anyway. But you know what has been said and what was done to people who profess the very same faith. How quickly we forget. How quickly we forget that these very, very people who are saying these things right now, 2027 watasafisha rada.
They have started. They have started their projects.
With the 50 bob and the 1,000 that they hand to you, as if that will feed you for the next 5 years. We forget very quickly. I say, watch that documentary, get angry. Get angry about the status of this nation. Get angry about your passiveness about this nation. And then don't stop at that. Now do something about it. Do something about it in the station where you're at. If you're in a position of influence, use your position to speak about it and speak loudly and unashamed about it. Speak against the evils that people are facing in this country. Speak against the people who are purporting to be leaders of integrity, but yet they are followed left and right. Wanakimbizana na EACC huko. because they have issues of corruption. Speak against injustices that you come across. 3, let it not end there. This rage, we can only feel it in the city. But let me tell you, tukienda pale mashinani, there are probably people who have not seen it.
They don't even know there's a documentary.
They don't even know that there's a documentary of some sort that is making waves in the city. So it is upon us, any person that is able to let that documentary. We should actually start a very loud campaign. Let it be translated
into
so that it is in Kikuyu, it is in Kiswahili, it is in Kiluya, it is in Kikisi, it is in Kikamba, Kijadeki, Turkana, Kisamburu, everything.
Yeah.
So that there you want to forget. There's this that is constantly reminding you of the atrocities that happened on the 25th. So that it is alive and fresh in your mind. Let that rage simmer in you. But don't let it eat you up to finish and consume you to have hate. But let it be a motivating fire. So that you never again want to see that. Because the blood of those ones that was spilled on that day, because Sikina Eric Pekeao, many died. Many whose names haven't been, many whose names that we haven't been able to say them.
Many
but
died. Even babies died.
Let
Then
their
the
blood,
city
let the blood water the seeds of hope and change in this nation. Let the blood that they shed be a symbol of hope, and never again shall we lose young lives that are supposed to make a difference in this country, lives that are very precious. Never again should we do that because of bad leadership. What a flimsy reason to lose life. Bad leadership, that is something we have the opportunity to change, and that begins now. We need to re-strategize, we need to regroup, because 2027 cannot be business as usual. It cannot be business as usual.
Ladies and gentlemen, as we bring this episode to a close, reflect on everything that has been shared. This is not a smiley. We promised laughter and banter, but not today. Sorry.
There's the realness.
There's nothing. Yeah, realness too. There's no laughter today. But just reflect on everything that has been shared, even as you mull over your own feelings about what is going on in this country. And like Hope has said, may it never be business as usual. We close this episode with a verse. Proverbs chapter 21 verse 3 says, "To do righteousness and justice is more acceptable to the Lord than sacrifice."
Amen.
And so, please, each of you, in whatever your capacity, your sacrifice to God means nothing to him if you don't operate in righteousness and in justice. So mull over this. When 2027 comes, amnesia is not your portion. Remember.
And if you want to try, we will remind you.
All the noise we shall make, because things must change in this country.
They must.
Till next time, we will see you on the Vineyard podcast. Goodbye, and stay well and keep safe, and vote better next time.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.